Ian Loing. That's my name. Maybe after this program, you could put your name on a brick too. You could use paint or chalk or a felt pen. I've been looking very closely at bricks and I've been making a book about them. I started off by taking some photographs of houses made of bricks. Do you live in a house that looks like this one, with a garden in the front of it? Or maybe you live in a house like this, with a veranda on the front. Or perhaps you live in a house like this, with an archway over the front door. That house down the bottom there, that's my auntie's place. Oh, she doesn't live in all of it. She's got what you call a home unit. There are other people living in the house too, and each of them has their own home unit. And all the home units put together, they make up one building. Do you know anyone who lives in a home unit or a flat? Maybe your house looks more like one of these over here. Or maybe it's larger or smaller. Maybe your house isn't made of bricks at all. Maybe you live in a wooden house or a caravan. Well, not all houses are made of brick. Brick houses come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. And there are different kinds of bricks too. I've got a collection of bricks over here. Would you like to have a look at them? This brick here has got holes in it, hasn't it? And this one has smooth sides on it. And this brick here has a groove down the centre. There are all sorts of different colours of bricks too. Have a look at these. Bricks are made from clay. But these lumps here are much too big. They have to be broken into smaller pieces and then water added to make them into bricks. I'll have a go at breaking one up. It's pretty hard work, especially if you're doing it all day. Let's go and see how the factory that makes the bricks does it. At the brickworks, this is a picture of what I saw. Now here, the big lumps of clay are put onto the conveyor belt. They go up the conveyor belt to the crusher, and then they're broken into smaller pieces. I was really surprised by the size of the piles of clay at the brickworks. They're enormous, and each one is a different colour. The colour of the bricks depends on the mixture of coloured clays, and the truck driver has to make this mixture before he loads the clay onto the conveyor belt. I watched him doing this for quite a while, and it's very dusty work. When the clay is mixed, the driver scoops it up and takes it to the conveyor belt. The lumps then fall onto the conveyor belt and are carried to the crusher. The belt is very strong. See how easily and smoothly it carries the clay. The crusher is driven by powerful machinery, and the lumps drop down and are broken into smaller pieces. In the brickworks, machinery does the work much faster than people can do it. This crusher breaks up the lumps of clay in a very short time. You know, people often use machinery to make their work easier, but I didn't see very many people at the brickworks. Oh, I knew they were there because machines need people to help keep them going. But they don't get tired like we do. Even after the clay has been through the crusher, the pieces aren't small enough. So, big heavy wheels crush the clay again, and the pieces are ground into powder. Another conveyor belt takes the powdered clay to a place where water is added to the clay, and the mixture is being stirred well. There's quite a lot of noise in the factory all the time, but each machine makes its own special sound. Listen to this one. Now, the powdered clay looks like this. Here we are. Now, I'll put some onto the board here. There we go. And then it's ready to have the water added to it. Well, first, we have to put a hole into the middle, all right? So that the water doesn't all run all over the place. There we go. I'll put some water in. Not too much to begin with. And then I just mix the powder in gradually. Like that. So we don't lose it everywhere. Whoa, nearly lost it. There we go. Now, mix it up into a nice sort of a mud. There we go. Might need a little bit more water, and then it'll be just about ready to be made into a brick. We've got to get a good mud pie sort of a mixture. There we are. Gets a bit messy. It's always fun making mud pies. Right. Now, when we've got that mixture, it's ready to be made into a brick. But we won't do that here, because they can do that much better at the factory. I'll show you. The next time I saw the clay mixture at the brickworks, it looked more like a brick. It had been squeezed into a brick shape and was being carried along yet another conveyor belt. And in this factory, they make bricks with holes in them. The lengths of clay still have to be cut. It's quite difficult to see, but in this machine, very thin wires push through each length of clay to cut it into the bricks. And now, the bricks look like this. They might look like they're ready for house building, but they're not. They're still too soft, and they can be quite easily broken. See? In fact, they're so soft, I could probably even break one in my hands. See? That's because they still have to be baked in a very hot oven. Now, the inside of the oven looks like this, and it's very, very hot. There's a special name for an oven for making bricks. It's called a kiln. Of course, I couldn't see very well inside the kiln because it was so hot. I could feel the heat from the kiln when I stood outside it, and I could just see the flames between the sides of the kiln and the stacks of bricks. When the bricks came out of the kiln and cooled down, men tied the stacks up with steel tape, and then the bricks are ready for building. Each stack is just the right size for the forklift truck to move. Now they're stored here in the factory yard until the builder wants them. I started counting the bricks in this pile, but I gave up because there were too many. Come and look at this wall I've built. Building a wall isn't easy, and this wall here just won't do at all. See how easy it is to knock it down. Just one little push and over it goes. Well, right now, I feel like joining Martin for a song. We'll talk about walls a little bit later on. So, see you soon.
Nick took a brick and he laid it on the ground, and then he took another one and laid it on top. Another one here and another one there, and soon he built a wall. But the wind came up and the rain came down. The wind came up and the rain came down. The wind came up and the rain came down. And soon that wall was laying on the ground.
Now Bert came quick and he said, look, Nick, if you want to build a wall and you want to build it tall, if you want to make it strong so it won't fall down, then first you'll need some mortar.
Then Nick said, drat, I never thought of that. So Bert made the mix and Nick laid the bricks, and they built that wall and they built it tall, right up to the sky. And the wind came up and the rain came down. The wind came up and the rain came down. The wind came up and the rain came down. And it didn't hurt the wall at all, at all. It didn't hurt the wall at all.
Well, thanks to Bert, we know a lot more about building a wall that won't fall down. He said you need mortar. Do you know what that is? Mortar's the stuff that sticks the bricks together. To make mortar, we need to mix sand and cement and water, like this. We get lots of sand and not quite as much cement. Mix them together a bit first. When they do this on the building site, they actually use a big shovel and a big trough. But I only need to mix a little bit here today. Now, like we did with the making of the brick, you need to make a hole in the middle to put the water into, otherwise it all runs away. Get some water. Be careful not to let it run away. There we go, and we're back to making mud pies again. Good mud pie. It starts to look a little bit like cement. It takes a lot of mixing normally. We'll just mix up a little bit here. I'll just take that little bit from the centre there. There we go. Now, let's look at the wall. Now this wall is good and steady. Can you see the mortar between each brick? And also, the bricks aren't sitting right on top of one another like that, because like the other wall, they'd fall down. But instead, they have to be overlapping so that it locks the bricks together. Now, I'll show you how to lay one, just to show you what I mean. We get some mortar. I'll stick it onto the wall. You need quite a bit on there. I'll get that extra little bit and put it on the end. And stick it on. And then, with the trowel, we tap it down. Take off the extra.